Welcome to Engineering Reimagined. I'm sitting down with Andriy, CEO of Nomic, who's come out amongst this glorious Melbourne weather. So welcome to Melbourne.
Thank you. Beats the -2 in New York.
We last caught up about 2 years ago when we got together to talk about AI in engineering. What trends are you seeing that's really shifted since our last conversation?
It's awesome to be back. Last time I came out to Melbourne, you had folks realizing that AI systems were coming. AI systems were going to be embedded into the stacks of every single organization out there, but they didn't know what to do about it. They were talking about things like getting data ready for AI. They were talking about upskilling their workforce to be able to adopt the new technology. I think over the past 2 years, we've seen a lot of things play out in terms of the adoption, but also capability improvements in the actual AI systems that people can adopt. And the kind of work that AI can do has really just, I think, both surprised a lot of people in the space, but also the adoption of current AI systems have really fallen behind, I would say, the cutting edge capabilities of them.
I think one of the things I've seen is we've gone from this mindset of curiosity around AI to actually people understanding the value that this technology can add. Are there examples you can point to of where organizations have shifted from that curiosity mindset to actually seeing value play out for them in their businesses?
You have organizations that take a risk-first approach to the adoption, and you have organizations that kind of take a everything but the kitchen sink style form of adoption to it. Both of those, in terms of specific examples, have played out differently across not just like regions of the world, but also like industries. A key example here is across like customer support and customer success. And that's an easy place for AI adoption to happen because a lot of the tasks there are things like information retrieval. Get your data ready in the right spot, have AI help your internal folks generate a response. But on the other hand, there's organizations that have taken a lot more of a gradual approach to the tech, which I think has been a lot more successful, where they have spent a lot of time thinking about how do we put the right data layer in place to allow for AI to do the right context building? How do we go in and not do a top-down forcing of the technology on folks, but actually get the right leaders internally that drive that bottom-up adoption that will help steer the organization into adopting it at the right time and at the right place, depending on their maturity level. And then you also have in the technology space, just full-on deep dives. You know, the place where these systems have been most effective, and I think a lot of the focus of the foundation model companies, the OpenAIs and Anthropics, in terms of the data they're training on, which has been coding tasks. You know, there have been entire sectors of the economy fundamentally transformed by the tech in just the last 3 years. And this is not just simple AI answering a question. This is AI doing real GDP equivalent work, GDP moving work for organizations. In software engineering, for example, just over the last 4 months, internally in my organization, we've gone from 20% of the code being written by AI to 70, 80% of the code being written by AI. And our software engineers, they're skilled verifiers of the output. That kind of thing is coming for all industries. It's just a matter of the humans being able to verifiably measure the performance of those systems. So I think there's a wide range of how adoption has taken hold over the last couple of years. It's been always a function of a company's data readiness. But not just also data readiness, it's where the focus of big foundation model companies have been.
2 years ago, we were talking a lot about data readiness and getting data AI ready so you can extract value from AI. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the end goal of any AI system being adopted into a workload is that you want the AI system to start work where the human starts work, and you want it to end work where the human ends work. So a really concrete example is, you have some task that you do or a workflow that you do that gets kicked off by an email. Maybe a submittal request comes in, and that's an instance where work starts. And then work ends by depositing a report back or a response back, maybe over email. People will only actually really start adopting the technology if the system that you're using for that technology does the whole end-to-end flow for you, because then they spend time verifying that flow as opposed to, moving data around. And this is sort of what it means to be data ready. In order for an agentic system to do an end-to-end workflow for a human and allow that human to be an orchestrator of it, not a verifier of it, as opposed to somebody that is moving data around and kind of filling in gaps for that AI system, what you need is to have a data foundation where that AI system can pull in that context at any point in time. So for example, at Nomic, we've built models that allow for AI to understand PDFs, drawings, documents that are highly multimodal. We've built models that allow for AI agents to be able to perform really high quality search over highly difficult multimodal data. All of that is an exercise in what we call context building, making sure that agents can pull the right context from the right sources.
We're talking about agents all the time now. I'm thinking AI and agents can't be uncoupled. What do you think the potential of agents are within engineering and technical organizations. Like one of the things I reflect on is we don't have exquisite data sets. We have lots of unstructured data.
This is where I think the first sort of real value of agentic systems, especially in design and engineering, comes in, where you can take a lot of the tasks that are like for instance, you're about to go in and ship out a drawing to a client. Maybe you're at 40%, 50%, right? And you want to get some initial passes to make sure that what you're delivering is up to spec, right? This is the kind of thing that AI is very good at. It's very good at multimodal reasoning. It's very good at being able to do cross-references between a very complex object and thousands of pages to potentially flag issues. What it's not very good at is being able to say, for example, are there clashes happening in some three-dimensional system right now that you're getting two-dimensional slices of in the context of a drawing set? So where this all, I think, starts really fitting in is that when you get this kind of like symbiosis.
What do you see as those sort of cultural traits or those traits of individuals who are really maximizing the most of this technology as part of their work?
The thing that really differentiates our most effective people now versus the individuals that are still operating in kind of like the pre-agentic world are people that are really comfortable being orchestrators of systems, people who are more architectural thinkers, people who think about what is the right outcome that I'm looking for and not necessarily what are the nitty-gritty steps to get to that outcome that might agents can actually go in and accomplish. The people who perform the best are the ones that are very much systems thinkers that can do more orchestration and then be able to manage all that orchestration. So not just managing one agent, but multiple agents at the same time.
When I start thinking more broadly in terms of how organizations are adopting AI and agents, I think that's one of the traits that will actually differentiate organizations. Because one of the things I hear often is that there's some future state where we've all got the most powerful AI tools available. So I'm interested in how that collaboration can create space for, I guess, unique outputs.
Let me do a hypothetical here. So imagine we're in a world in 5 years, right? Imagine the mean engineering consultancy. Everyone's gone in and adopted tooling that allows for every single designer and engineer on staff to be using agentic AI that performs meaningful engineering and design work to allow for design work to actually happen. Where does value concentrate in this world? Value concentrates in the talented folks you have and their taste internally to be able to deliver that extra edge of quality. Right? There's many ways to achieve the same outcome, right? There's multiple classes out there of solutions that are all things that a client will accept. What differentiates Aurecon from another firm? It's their tastes, the experience of their people that they hire, the things that their teams have done to allow them to deliver that work in a higher quality way. Their better understanding of their clients' real problems versus the problems that their clients might be marketing that they have, right? So in a world where the technology is democratized and a drawing review is perfect for everyone to do, it'll be the ones that have the highest taste in how they actually deliver those outputs and how they pick which issues they're actually going to focus on or which issues they're not going to focus on with the AI services, for example. I think about in general technology adoption in this manner, which is in a world where everyone has it. It's an equalizer, right? What is that big differentiator? And to me, frankly, it's taste. If I was to define the word taste, which is a very vague term, taste, another way to frame it is quality bar. What is your quality bar for delivering out an asset? What is your quality bar for delivering out something with a ribbon on top of it that you're proud to put your name behind it, right? That's the thing that really differentiates somebody who's doing the work just to do the work and clock out at 5, or somebody who really deeply believes in the work that they're doing and they're executing on. And if you as an organization are able to find folks and make folks enjoy working with you that have that level of taste, that have that high quality bar because they're really proud of the underlying work they're doing, that is the thing that differentiates you in the environment where every single one of your competitors has access to agentic systems that can do that work at that level of quality.
You see it play out in multiple levels now where like the investment we make in our people, the expertise that we have continues to be the driving force behind what separates great outcome from okay outcome. You touched on quality just then. One of the things I often hear is, these AI systems can be prone to make an occasional mistake or an error. Is that at odds with quality? How can these systems increase quality? I'd just love to get your take on what's the feasibility in practice of using AI to fundamentally improve quality output?
Yeah. Think about how current project execution happens, right? You bring in a project into the organization. requirements are clear, the legal stuff cleared up, execution is happening. Who's actually executing on this project? Well, what's that very last step that happens before you put the ribbon on top and you ship it out to a client, right? That senior principal sits down and verifies the output.
We think about AI, we think about jobs, we think about people. And I think you touched on a few of these in terms of systems thinkers, architectural thinkers, orchestrators, skill verifiers. What are some of the key and critical skills that our people or people in other technical organizations should be developing for the future?
Just like any transformation, there's not going to be necessarily a change in the need for very skilled junior people. There's going to be definitely a change in the requirement set for what they need to execute on. And we're in this very strange time, I think right now, where the capabilities of the system far exceed the preparation of folks that have been training for the roles that they're in, where a lot of folks, it presents, number one, a very difficult time for folks that are not ready to adapt, but also presents a lot of opportunity to folks that can very quickly adapt. And the people who previously might have not had opportunities to get into certain roles because they have the skill set that actually is very, 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 very well inclined to being things like an architectural thinker and an orchestrator. They can have better job opportunities.
So we're thinking about readiness in terms of getting our people ready and the change that's coming. I look at where AI in software engineering was a few years ago, and I've seen massive improvements there. We have AI in design engineering now and for other technical organizations. Where will we be in 2 years? I'd love to get your thoughts on what the next frontier is in terms of where we're headed.
The reality of the capabilities of AI systems for the last few years is that the places where you've seen the most acceleration in terms of the capabilities have been in domains where the inputs are text heavy. So as an example, 2023, you probably tried ChatGPT, and the very first example is have it write an email for you. And you're like, wow, that's kind of quality for me to just copy paste and make a few edits in, right? That probably saved me 5 or 10 minutes. That AI is operating over top of a textual domain. And then the next place you saw probably a lot of capabilities, and maybe a lot of you have tried this, which is AI for what we call like vibe coding, being able to go in and build software products, be able to build features in software products. And while code might seem something that's very different than like writing an email, the actual underlying data domain that it's operating over top of is still text. You're just outputting text, which happens to be code that then compiles into a feature or an application. What's the big difference between that and design and engineering? In design and engineering, you're working with highly multimodal assets. The inputs to an design and engineering workflow is not just text. You might have a spec. You might have some email that's coming in and asking you a question, maybe an RFI, but it's never just text. There's an attachment. That attachment is a PDF that might contain a sketch of a detail, right? That attachment might be a product spec that, let's say, a contractor is trying to sub in instead of something that is currently being recommended for use in the project by the designers or engineers. And over the past couple of years, this has actually been a subdomain of data that the foundation model company is not focused on developing AI system capabilities on, multimodal inputs. And this is actually where we at Nomic are seeing a big acceleration in both capability adoption, but where we're building our own domain-specific models to close that capability gap. So at Nomic, when we say we build agentic systems that accelerate design and construction, what we really mean is we build models that can understand those highly multimodal inputs and provide that sort of set of lenses for the AI foundation models to be able to perform at a higher quality rate and a lower error rate over top of engineering discipline and subdomains. So a really concrete example here is, say, a submittal review, right? A submittal occurs when a contractor has a qualm or thinks that they have a better idea of what should be going into the project when it's being executed in comparison to the recommendations of a designer or engineer. And you might say you want this sort of bolt in this sort of area in this sort of area of your building. And the contractor says, these bolts are cheaper and we can get them more readily available in this region where it's being executed. Let's do this instead. And they'll go in, they'll send a submittal package in. And that's basically a question with a bunch of PDF attachments. And then the designer and engineer has to figure out, hey, can I actually use this, right? Is this going to break, code requirements for the project? Is this going to harm other phases of the project that maybe that contractor is not privy to? And they have to take in all this multimodal context, information that's happening in Teams messages and emails, information that's coming from the raw drawings, right? Those multimodal inputs, and then make a very critical decision that might lead to, tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars of down the line damages if the decision is wrong. And it turns out that AI systems for the last couple of years, up until I would say, frankly, 4 or 5 months ago, the error rate was way too low on these kinds of inputs because you had this highly multimodal data modality. But things like our parsing models internally at Nomic close that gap. So what you should think about when you think about how are these systems going to change my workflow as a designer or engineer or as somebody executing on the delivery of a physical asset is more data modalities that are multimodal, and tasks over top of multimodal data modalities are going to start being solved by these systems. And not just reading documents, not just reading multimodal PDFs like drawings, but actually interacting with multimodal systems, being able to go in and take an action on your behalf in Revit. You find an AI agent will find an issue in your drawing, and you'll be able to say, hey, I want to fix that in Revit. And they'll be able to actually take that action for you. This is not like any science fiction. We have systems internally on the R&D side of things where we can go in and actually do that and make a call into Revit with an agent. So these kinds of things are coming. The important part is also always just remembering that even though the AI can go in and produce you something, the engineer still has to spend 30 minutes verifying its output, right? Because the AI is not going to put your stamp on it for you.
Yeah, and I think for organizations like Aurecon, where quality is ingrained as part of our culture and way of working, I think we're really set up to leverage that as AI continues to get embedded in our firm and organizations like ours. We really look to AI to be something that amplifies that trait for us.